Hi, everybody. It's your AP Biology teacher here today. We are on topic 8.6, and that is on biodiversity. And on the cover here, I have a beautiful jaguar. And a jaguar is what we call a keystone species, which is super important for maintaining biodiversity. What does that mean? I'm going to talk about it here in just a second. Let's get into it. Biodiversity is the term for the overall diversity of living things at an ecological level of organization, and it is incredibly important to maintain. Some biologists argue that biodiversity is one of our most important natural resources. That's up there with like oil and coal and natural gas and wood and like all sorts of stuff and like minerals. Like biodiversity is one of the most important natural resources according to conservation biologists and biologists in general. Why is that? Well, without biodiversity, life on Earth is probably going to be at a greater risk of extinction. And I want you to start to think about why. Why is life on Earth at a greater risk of extinction if there's less biodiversity? Think back to your natural selection unit. Okay, why is it that less diversity would result in a greater extinction rate? All right, well, this hopefully looks familiar. We use this kind of acronym here to describe the conditions of natural selection, right? We talked about variation, how individuals have to have differences from one another in a population in order to for natural selection to occur. Then those variations need to be passed down genetically from parent to offspring. Not all individuals have an equal chance of surviving and reproducing because of those variations, and as a result, the variations that enable survival and reproduction are more readily passed down. That's adaptation, right? So what's at the very bottom of all of this? Well, it's variation, and you like my highlight? I took a lot of effort in that. But anyway, variation is at the very bottom of all of that, all right? Natural selection and adaptation cannot occur without variation there in the first place, okay? So as you can imagine, all right, a population without any genetic variation is not going to be able to adapt to changes, and consequently, an ecosystem or a community or even a population with less diversity is not going to be able to adapt to changes. And a population, community, or ecosystem with more diversity is more likely to resist environmental changes. All right, so in the last topic video, we looked at community structure. Okay, we looked at species diversity and species richness, and we said that, hey, a community with a higher Simpson's diversity index is probably going to be a healthier ecosystem, and it's going to be more resilient to environmental change. Why is that? It's because variation increases survival odds. Well, I should say the odds that a community or ecosystem or even a population will be able to adapt to environmental changes. All right, so just in a very similar way that natural selection works, okay, an ecosystem with a greater variety of life is going to be more resilient. Because there's the higher chance of an individual being better able to adapt to that environment and then pass down its genes, or to that change in the environment and pass down its genes and continue life in that community or that ecosystem. So consequently, ecosystems with less diversity are less resilient and are at a greater risk. All right, so this theme has come up a couple times already in biology. The more variation there is, the better. And when we're talking about variation in a community or ecosystem like this, we are talking about biodiversity, the kinds of life and the abundance of the relative abundance of that life here too. Okay, so if you contrast these two ecosystems right here, one, you have monoculture. Okay, this is a cornfield. It looks like there's a lot of them around where I live. There's a cornfield, and really in industrial farming like this, a lot of the corn plants, the crops are just clones of each other. So there is very, very, very little, if any, genetic variation at all in this vast swath of land here. All right, but while you contrast that to a rainforest, and the rainforest is one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, it's actually considered to be what's called a biodiversity hotspot, meaning there's so many different species and relative abundance of those species there that it's going to be highly resistant to change. But if something comes through here, like I don't know, like a blight or something like Dutch elm disease, what we talked about last time, or potato blight, etc., that's going to be more impactful on something like a monoculture than it is on a richly diverse ecosystem like this in a rainforest. So many biologists argue against the way that industrial farming is done, where we do what's called monocropping, or having a monoculture. Mono meaning one type of plant and one type of crop only. That is putting an ecosystem at great risk, okay, because it will not be able to resist environmental changes. I cannot stress that point enough. All right. So in a common approach to conserving biodiversity, all right, which is, again, I hopefully made it clear why biodiversity is important. So conservation biologists, their goal is to maintain biodiversity. I had a conservation biology professor in college say that, like, hey, yeah, if you want to be a conservation biologist, get ready for a really depressing career and really depressing life. It's like, oh, great. Thanks, man. That's awesome. I love to hear that. But nonetheless, efforts are taking place to conserve biodiversity where we can and prevent further species from going extinct. We'll talk about that more in 8.7. So a common approach to conserving biodiversity targets species. All right, you can. There's another way that you can protect a particular area or particular ecosystem, but other strategies to conserving biodiversity target species, and that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. You can protect producers and what are called keystone species. Those two factors right there tend to be the most important in order to maintain the health of an ecosystem or the health of a community. Producers, because think about it, they're at the bottom of the trophic pyramid. They are producing. They are, providing the energy for all the other consumers above them, the primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. Okay. So even the tertiary consumers up here that'll never even probably put their mouths near a plant, right? They're still getting their energy from the plants and the producers. So those need to be protected, but also keystone species like this jaguar over here. And that's why I put it on the title page. Keystone species are species that have a disproportionate effect on an ecosystem relative to its abundance. So that means that it's not a very common species. It's not one that you see a lot of. The relative abundance of that species in the ecosystem is pretty small, but they play such an important role in the ecosystem that if it's not there, the ecosystem tends to collapse. And in the Amazon ecosystem, the rainforest ecosystem, a jaguar is an example of a keystone species. Why? Because it regulates so many other populations within the community and within the ecosystem. And it has a really, really important role in the balance of energy transfer, predation, et cetera, in that ecosystem. Okay, so that's so the jaguar, for example, would be a species that conservation biologists would want to target as specifically protecting that one in order to promote the whole health of the ecosystem. All right, another really, really good example are, once again, gray wolves. But I didn't want to put wolves on the cover again because I already did for 8.1, so I had a jaguar this time. But wolves in lots of places in North America serve as a keystone species. And in fact, there's a famous story a couple decades ago. Yellowstone National Park, one of the world's most famous national parks, is the oldest national park in the United States. They had a complete lack of wolves in their park. And as a result, the whole kind of ecosystem got thrown off. Deer were overabundant. The elk were overabundant. And we're kind of destroying a lot of the producers, or destroying a lot of the plant life. And consequently, when conservation biologists, when whatever organization it is, maybe the DNR or something, or the Department of the Interior, I guess that would be, when they introduced wolves, back into Yellowstone. All right, the wolves served as tertiary consumers or even secondary consumers, and the ecosystem thrived. All right, because they regulated the herbivore population, and therefore the plants and the producers were better able to survive and reproduce, and then the ecosystem was healthier as a whole. So reintroducing wolves into that environment had a huge difference on the health of the ecosystem, and that's what makes wolves a keystone species. All right, and we call it keystone species. A keystone is the one at the top of the arch, right, and of an archway and a doorway. If you remove the keystone from it, the archway collapses, and that's why we call a keystone species, because without them, the ecosystem is in really big trouble. All right, let's recap really fast. Ecosystems that have more biodiversity are more likely to adapt and resist environmental change due to natural selection. Ecosystems that have less biodiversity are less resilient and are at a higher risk. I said that like 50 times, so hopefully it sunk in. Producers and keystone species are more conserved. are most conserved. They're most targeted for conservation because of their super important role that they play in the ecosystem, right? Producers provide obtainable energy for all the consumers. And keystone species, which are usually like tertiary consumers, that kind of stuff, they regulate other populations. They have a disproportionate effect on the health of an ecosystem. And ecosystems often collapse without them, namely like the jaguar and the wolves, for example. All right, there's other keystone species out there if you just look it up, but those are the two examples I have. Let me know if you have any questions, and we will see you for our last topic video.